Hi everybody, Rad Mom here. Welcome back to the garden on this lovely summer evening where we have a new guest on the channel tonight. Pearl Davis is with us. I hear she's the female Andrew Tate. But first, like the video if you enjoy my content and subscribe to the channel so that we can all work together to drag feminism back into the real world, even though Pearl says women don't want to live there. You know, I've been disagreeing with that assessment for some time. Pearl's basic thesis is that men and women aren't equal. Wouldn't you know it, I agree. Let's go.
Pearl Davis has racked up a legion of online followers and plenty of breathless newspaper coverage.
And it's Piers Morgan, so you know this is gonna be so much fun. He's just the presenter. He's living set dressing. You can pretty much just ignore him. What they've done here, though, is set up Pearl on a panel opposite, you know, they got somebody to be her foil. And a foil is actually another character who highlights the qualities of your main character. So keep that in mind.
By sharing her incendiary views on modern feminism. The New York Post called her the female Andrew Tate. So she tapped into genuine female pushback to the excesses of wokery, or is she just an attention seeker?
He set us up with a false dichotomy. First of all, I don't see any reason that she can't be serious and looking for attention. I see no reason those two things cannot both be true. I'm pretty sure they are, actually.
Let's take a look at the clip that sent her viral.
A lot of people think I'm insane because I don't think women should vote. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for this opinion.
First of all, objection, redhead in a red dress. Fashion faux pas. I think this is where I'll mention that there's like a decent chance Pearl and I are cousins. Because her name is Davis, and my mom is a Davis. I'm gonna put her up right here. Hi, Ma. I think they look kind of alike. Don't you? My first impression of Pearl Davis is that she's a combination of my mother and Elizabeth Holmes. And she probably has more in common with my mom than I do.
If anything, this is probably my most extreme opinion. 90% of women have been on birth control. 1 out of 3 women has had an abortion. 1 out of 3 women has an STD. Average body count is over 5, so that your average wife has slept with over 5 people. 95% of women are not virgins on their wedding days. So I understand the complaint.
I don't understand the complaint. What is she talking about? Is this bullet list supposed to be disqualifiers from being serious, civic-minded individuals? Because it sounds to me like women have just done a really good job of behaving like men.
Okay, well, Pearl joins me now alongside political journalist Eva Santina. It was not.
Her name is Eva Santina. I don't know that he ever pronounces it clearly enough for you to actually catch that.
Right, Pearl, you've be called the female Andrew Tate. How do you plead?
Well, I take it as a compliment. You know, I'm a fan of Andrew Tate.
Of everything he says?
It depends what we're talking about, but overall, I think he's got a good message. I think he's good for young men.
I feel like Andrew Tate is sort of a non sequitur here, honestly, because we're not here to talk about men. But he's an asshole, right?
Okay, look, you're talking about women predominantly, which is why you've got this big following. And your view is that modern feminism is deeply flawed. I would argue a lot of your proposals, like taking the vote away from women, are deeply regressive.
So he calls her regressive, and that is the last negative thing he's going to say to or about her for the entire rest of the segment.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you want to remove, just from yourself, the right to vote?
Well, what happened was I had the same view, right? Back when I started, I was like, why? I found out that only 5% of women wanted the right to vote.
So what? Good ideas are not always popular. So what?
And I couldn't figure out, like, why would women not? No, it's true. It's true. If you look it up.
At the time.
At the time.
Because they've been conditioned by men to think that they shouldn't have a vote.
I mean, that's what they say, but...
And Piers has made the classic argument that, you know, women in past eras were products of their environment. Real big brain time over here with Piers Morgan. Oh my God.
You know, I started reading their writings, right? And what I found out was that the reason a lot of women advocated for it was because they believed it was the beginning of the breakdown of the family. You know, before you became one in marriage, 85% of people were married. And, you know, I hate to say it, but they were right. What has happened 100 years later?
So she's implying that feminists were campaigning for the breakdown of the family. maybe some of them were. To suggest that all feminists are anti-family is to paint with a bit of a broad brush.
What's that got to do with them having the vote?
Well, it also goes back to responsibility.
Responsibility. Thanks for bringing it up, Pearl. What exactly is the masculine responsibility that women fail to meet?
Men are 80 to 90% of the military. They run all of the infrastructures that make society run.
Men running infrastructure is the reason they deserve civil rights? First of all, can we debate that? Secondly, no, they don't. There are a lot of unofficial infrastructures that are still run by women. We used to run pretty much everything on the ground at home because a lot of times, the men were not there for various reasons. They're off doing business or doing war or whatever that we were not included in. So basically, any kind of classic on the ground at home infrastructure, women probably invented that.
I just think if we want an equal say in society, then be equal. Do 50% of the hard jobs. Be 50% of the military. In the U.S., they're fined $250,000 if they don't join selective service, which is essentially the draft.
Okay,
Yeah, and I don't support that. I don't think the military should be mandatory. You really want some guys supporting you in a life and death situation who don't really want to be there? That sounds like a bad plan to me. But what the fuck do I know about military strategy? Okay, sure. Men, go be 50% teachers and daycare workers and nurse aides and mothers. Oh, wait a minute.
Specifically on the vote, what would having the right to vote have to do with family cohesion, for example?
Well, because again, before you weren't trying to divide a family. It was one family unit. You had one vote for the family.
And now we're going to take a little field trip over to another lovely RadFem channel, Silent Voice, who put out something a year ago that I would have just shared on my community page this morning because it's totally relevant to this topic, but I could not because it's been flagged as containing explicit content, which it does not.
Quick question. In democracy or under democracy, we're meant to have elected representatives, right? Now, if there's no representatives to actually vote for, have we lost women's suffrage? Now, we've got the right that wants to own women's reproductive capacity, and we have the left that wants to invisibilize women's reproductive capacity and erase the sex class of woman. Whereas the right would protect that, but they'd take away abortion rights and possibly a lot of other rights. We're kind of screwed. If we vote left, we're screwed. If we vote right, we're screwed. Does this mean we have lost women's suffrage? Do we need to fight for it again, but this time on terms that mean there are representatives for women that are not trying to destroy us on one level or another? I am thinking we actually have to go back to fight for suffrage in terms of representation.
I think that she's framed this dichotomy that we're stuck in really well, hasn't she? She makes a very interesting point here that women have already been disenfranchised. So, congratulations, Pearl. You already got that wish. Can we talk about something else now?
I mean, I don't think it's good for a family to have two votes.
Why? We're never going to get to that, so don't worry.
Ava, your mouth seems to have dropped
No,
about
do you know when it's sort of
feet.
like,
I
no,
know.
it's just sort of a bit galaxy brain. I feel like, the stats that you're putting down are perhaps correct in some universe.
This woman is brought on here, I swear to God, just to insult Pearl. Which is what she expects. Which is one of the many reasons I am not going to do it.
They just kind of don't really add up. I mean, just to take you back to the to the women's writings that you've allegedly read. I mean, at
Allegedly?
The time, well, at
What
the
do you mean
time-
allegedly?
At the time,
See, that's what I'm saying. Allegedly read. Maybe she read them and misunderstood them. Maybe she's actually read everything she says she's read. Why do you need to come on here and insult this girl? And she is a girl. Because she makes you really angry. Okay? Pearl Davis is very frustrating. Isn't she? Isn't she just so aggravating? So, your brain short circuits very quickly with some of the dumb shit that comes out of her mouth and stops you from actually engaging with anything that she says. engaging with any of her arguments that she does make, and actually answering any of the questions that she asks. This is a young woman who is lost.
At the time that you're talking about, you know, women weren't really allowed to write. They weren't allowed to go to school.
Yes, they were.
Write.
Yes, they were. That's incorrect. The first female property. The first
about?
female property owner was in the 1600s.
Wow, we've been able to own property for 400 years? Problem solved, ladies. Oh, wait a minute. I mean, shit. Cleopatra was pharaoh 2,000 years ago.
The idea that women couldn't work and couldn't.
I'm so sorry, but that would be inherited property.
The first female millionaire was in the late 1800s.
And was that inherited?
No, it wasn't. It was self-made.
Yes,
it was
self-made.
Yes, it
and
was.
She never inherited land.
Yes, she did not inherit it.
It was self-made, actually. I knew immediately who they were talking about. Her name was Sarah Breedlove, also known as Madam C.J. Walker. She was actually a black woman. And her museum is in my hometown. And we have the same first name. So, you know, you could say I've known this story my whole life. She founded a company manufacturing and selling, hair care and skin products to African American women when no one else was fucking doing that. That's entrepreneurship. Very nice. The problem with this argument, though, is that she didn't start that company until 1905.
What law permitted that?
Well, there was no law. I mean, there's always been women that were in.
I don't know about in Australia. This is Sky News. But by 1900 in the United States, all the states that existed at the time, they ratified laws allowing married women to own their own property, yes. Which is still a hell of a loophole. Am I right here? Which, by the way, is rooted in English common law, which does not apply to your personal effects, okay? She owns her fucking clothes. She doesn't own the wardrobe she keeps them in or the house they're in. You're allowed to have personal effects. You're just not allowed to have any assets. So, you know, what law permitted that? I looked that up. It took me an hour or two, maybe, of research at the most to find that out. Neither of these women actually knows the answer to that question.
Okay.
You know, your big push is that you care about men and you don't think that men are getting enough of a say. But
I care about
hang
women
on,
too.
I haven't
She does care about women too, remember that.
made the point
too,
yet, because of feminism, okay? What I wonder is when you start making calls out like repeal the 19th, women shouldn't be allowed to vote, how is that helping young men?
That's a good question. Why don't you stop right there? How the fuck is this helping young men? I got nothing.
Because these young men have women in their lives, they have mothers, they have sisters, they have teachers, and they turn around, they don't know how to act around women because you're giving them license to be misogynistic.
No, she's not the one doing that. The culture is the one doing that, okay? Somebody made a really good, terrifying point to me the other day, which is that men are primed to see sexual signals constantly, okay? Which kind of probably puts them in just, you know, generally more misogynistic frame of mind. Wouldn't you think?
I wouldn't call it misogynistic. I say be equal.
Be equal. Which sex do you suppose actually has trouble with that?
So again, men do all of the.
Feminists are
well,
saying.
then okay, I'd love for the feminists. Please apply for the oil rigs. Please go do the hard jobs in society. They're
don't you
open.
go and
They're
work there?
hiring.
Hard manual labor is not the only thing that makes a job hard. Customer service is notoriously one of the most difficult and grueling jobs that there is. Lots of women do that.
I don't think men or women are equal until we do the
Right.
equal work.
You heard the girl.
So no, listen. Go apply to be on the oil rigs. Go be a plumber. Go be an electrician. Go be on the front lines of the military.
Women actually do all these things, including being on the front line of the military. And wouldn't you know it, when I went to double check that, it took me straight to a USA Today article about the intractable sexual assault problem. So I wonder why women might not be lining up in droves to join these fucking boys clubs. I thought you cared about them.
And then we should have equal rights. But until feminists are willing to do that, I don't believe we should have the freedom without the responsibility.
Okay, well, I don't think.
But we do. We do, though. We do all these things. We can do all these things. There's really only one thing that one sex can do that the other cannot do. I think you see where I'm going with this.
I don't think that I'm physically built for that. You might be, but I'm absolutely
That's
not.
a
You
bit-
Did she just insult her again by calling her mannish? That one might be me. But she's not taking Pearl seriously, which just reinforces Pearl's idea that the Opposition has nothing.
No, but you said you were You said you were a volleyball player, and so you've got more strength than I do. I don't think
but
that
I don't have more strength. I don't have more strength than the average man.
I'm not going to take your right away to do it.
I don't have more strength than the average man. But again, it goes back to go be a plumber.
Eva's rebuttal here is just so sad and weak. And why don't you just say women literally do all those things? Why is that not the obvious rebuttal here?
You also, but you want divorce to be made illegal.
Yes.
Why?
Yes, because I don't think what we have today is really marriage. What is marriage? It's for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. That's what marriage is supposed to be. But feminists have ruined marriage for the people that actually believe in marriage.
How?
When there's a 50% divorce rate and the average marriage
Why is that all down
8
to the
years.
women, though?
I didn't say that it was all down to the women.
So why feminists
you asked why I want divorce to be banned. Can I finish that first? So I'm saying, the people that believe in divorce, go be in long-term relationships. Leave marriage for the people that actually believe in for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
We're now arguing against gay marriage, right? Like, go back in time 10 years and try and recall all the reasons people came up with for why you would want to just get married. And now we're arguing against those.
The sanctity of marriage also rely on the woman being a virgin, so you wouldn't be able to get married.
Oh, low blow, Eva, come on. Really? You're trying to call her a hypocrite, which she is. But again, no offense, girlie, she may be half your age. And, that is just, why do you have to insult her? You don't need to insult this young woman. To take pot shots at this weak sauce that she's serving up. You don't need to. It just makes you look like you have nothing better to say.
What do you mean?
Well, you've spoken quite openly about how you're not a virgin, and so if you want to preserve that sanctity of marriage, then I just think that you're upholding standards that you don't actually live by.
And that's a fair complaint. I wish I was, but we can't go back. I don't know what you want me to say.
See, and Pearl Davis owns her own mistake here, just making Eva look like a bully now. So she comes out of that exchange looking really good, and Eva comes out of that looking really bad. Right before making her best point in the whole video.
But I just don't think it's fair that you get to be here and you get to be paid for your views, and you're telling other women that they shouldn't be allowed to.
I think.
Why exactly does she get to tell other young women to not pursue the lifestyle that she herself practices? How does she know better? On what grounds are we basing this edict here, Pearl?
Hang on. Okay, if I may, at some stage jump in. Isn't the whole point of being a feminist, though, that women are entitled to have their own views?
Absolutely.
So she's perfectly entitled to her views.
And then, of course, before Pearl can answer the best question we have heard yet, they're interrupted by Piers Morgan, of course, to tell us how perfectly entitled to her views she is. Yes, Piers, that is not the point. It is that she is contradicting her views while she is stating them.
You
might not like them.
But I'm here to challenge
Isn't she exercising her right as are you a feminist?
No, I am not.
Really?
No, I wouldn't. Don't go that far.
You don't want to be a feminist?
No, because
Dig him trying to act like he's surprised that the conservative, we shouldn't have the vote girl's not a feminist. Okay, Piers. Stick to your day job, honey.
I think if feminists really believed in equality, but you guys don't.
No, you know what? You're right. The longer I live and the more I learn, the more I'm not sure I do believe in equality as such.
I would love for you. There is an oil rig hiring. There is an engineering.
I would actually love to see Ava Santina on an oil rig.
No, seriously.
Ew. I mean, he's both sexualizing and patronizing that woman in one sentence.
Seriously, there is a building being built next to my building. Go do it, feminists.
Be a construction worker or shut up. That's not an argument. Why are we still listening to this girl talk and no one has just blown her away with facts and logic yet?
When you find the man you want to get married to, are you saying you will be with that man whatever happens the rest of your life?
Yes, for the vows that we're supposed to live by.
How do you know you can keep them?
I mean, I think it's a choice.
So says the voice of inexperience. No, honey. No, honey. You can go into a situation with all the best of intentions and still fail. You can do everything right and still fail. I'm sorry to have to break it to you. What if after 20 or 30 years of marriage, your husband slowly evolves into a violent alcoholic? What then? What if, as a friend of mine so helpfully told me all about last night, a friend of hers, her husband has appeared to have a schizophrenic breakdown. He wasn't he was a normal person who has turned into a paranoid psycho who ran off with their toddler in a car full of guns. What then? What do you do if your husband breaks your vows for you? I could go on and on and on because life is weird. Life does not give a shit about how you want things to go or what your plans are. It's not a choice a lot of the time. No, it isn't. And sometimes leaving is the right choice, but we're going to get there in a minute.
And that's the thing, women are so willing to leave marriages because they're not happy. This is not about happiness.
I don't know. I think maybe you setting up your life to make yourself happy is not an outrageous idea at its base. When taken too far, obviously it causes problems. But just at its most basic form, yeah, your life should serve you. And being miserable makes you ill over time. It shortens your life and makes you sick. So yeah, no, it is about happiness to some extent. It is.
The most important thing is the children.
And as far as it being about the kids, again, what about a violent alcoholic? What about a husband who, for whatever reason, perhaps through no fault of his own, in the case of a psychotic break, okay, becomes a danger to the children? What then?
And the problem is we have a modern society where it's me, my feelings, leave when I feel like it, instead of doing what's best for the kid.
It's true. Narcissism may be the real epidemic of our time. But, we are at the extreme end of a movement that started with the idea that the individual is capable of experiencing and interpreting their own life without divine intervention. I'd like to hold on to that one.
But I've got to say, it's a little bit listening to Andrew Tate, where some of it I really don't agree with. I don't agree with the vote stuff. When I hear things like that, I think there'll be a lot of people, especially older generation women perhaps, who think, you know what, she's got a point.
She's got a point? Whose side are you on, Piers? And I imagine that the older generation for you, who, there's probably not so many of them around anymore, but she sounds just like them. She's literally quoting them. She could be quoting my grandmother right now, okay? So what?
Well, I believe in agency, so I think that if a woman is going to look after her children in divorce, that's absolutely fine. I also believe in your right to speak your mind about it. What I don't understand...
I'd like to say, even before the 1920s,
do you know what I mean?
Women could speak openly. This idea that, women couldn't talk the last 500 years...
Eva's response to Piers' old "she's got a point" bit is steamrolled by Pearl, who is allowed to do so. Whose segment is this?
There have been women throughout history...
the American state education system has failed before, and it's failing now.
Did she just call her uneducated? She did, right? The American school system has failed? Arguably. Insulting this girl is certainly not going to win her over, and apparently she's very popular.
What I don't understand, though, is when it gets spiteful, okay? Because you put down a few arguments that I think are perfectly, they're kind of evangelical and they're Christian, but those are your right to say it.
So she's not objecting to the whole conservative thing. That's not even Eva's problem. That's kind of my problem, but that's not Eva's problem.
What I don't understand is when it kind of seeps into this sort of, you call women fat, you say that they shouldn't have abortions, you say that they have STDs.
The question is, are they fat, yes or no? The average American woman is 170 pounds. That's objectively overweight.
I feel very called out. It's like she saw my medical records or something. That's right about where I sit. I'm actually pretty happy with it. I've lost 50 pounds in the last year. But this is just... I'm just being real. No, you're being rude. It's possible to be truthful and tactful at the same time.
To be honest, we now celebrate morbid obesity as some kind of body positive thing, and it is complete nonsense. So actually, on that point again, there's a bit of truth in that.
And here comes Piers running fucking defense for her. What are you doing, Piers? I think we all know what he's doing. We all know whose side he's on here.
This is the problem.
How have we come to celebrate morbid obesity as body positive?
Well,
It's not-
Eva was trying to ask Pearl why it is that her rhetoric gets so spiteful, which is a decent question that was derailed again.
I'm not talking about morbid obese. I was actually watching your podcast earlier, and you spoke to someone who was, I would say, probably a size 12, and you called her fat, obese, and a divorcee.
She was fat, obese, and a divorcee.
wasn't.
I mean, like, I don't know what to say.
I'm just being real.
This is the thing, women, we don't want to live in reality. We don't want to say things that are true.
Yes, I desperately want to live in reality, and I spend way too much of my time talking about stuff that's true because no one else is saying these things. This girl, this is what they've got? And no offense to Pearl. She's a lovely young woman. I don't mean to offend her, and I don't mean to insult her. But she's not throwing heavy weight here. There's no... Where's the beef?
Was she fat? Yes. Was she a divorcee? Yes. These things are just objective facts.
Okay, I'm going to have to objectively...
And she insulted me first. They always do.
There it is. She insulted me first. They always do. I bet they do. I bet she's right about that. I bet that most women who are set up to debate her, I mean, first of all, they're going to pick somebody who is just incensed, right? Because that's engaging. Rather than picking someone who is actually going to try and parse out what the fuck she's talking about and actually address any of that. And the couple of times that Eva manages to recover herself and try to do so, Piers interrupts her. I think it's pretty clear whose side Piers Morgan is on here. He demonstrates that very clearly. He doesn't like trans people, but he's not on women's side either. But no, men and women are not equal because women can do everything that men can do. But men can't do everything women can do, can they? Do we really want to talk about this? Do we really want to talk about who is more capable? Do we really want to talk about girls outperforming boys in education now that we finally have it? Because that's the real difference. That's what's really led to the breakdown of the family. Which, guess what? I have one. So I don't know what you're talking about. I'm literally married to a man and we have kids together and we live together and like the whole nine. So I don't know what this breakdown is. Like, does everyone do it? No. Everybody doesn't need to do that. There, I said it. I don't understand why this is so hard. But so, yeah, we don't want to have this conversation, really. Men don't really want to talk about this. Men don't really want to talk about who is more capable than whom, do they? No. They throw out stuff like this about, oh yeah, we'll go work on an oil rig. No. Because the work environment on that oil rig is going to be a little toxic, isn't it? The simplicity of her arguments belies her inexperience, I think. I don't know if this is what Andrew Tate sounds like. These are simplistic arguments. And if Andrew Tate is making similar simplistic arguments, then why the fuck does anybody take him seriously either? I'm at a loss. That's been Pearl Davis and Eva Santina, who I guess, again, I think they brought on just to make Pearl look good. I'm Piers Morgan, who is lapping up everything this girl is saying. I can't imagine why. We as left liberal-minded people need to counter this stuff too. Okay? It's really easy to make fun of trans goofballs. And it's fun a lot of the time too, but this is also important, okay? Because the left has abandoned young women entirely, right? They don't even think we exist. And like Silent Voice was saying, the right is at least going to protect that identity. What they do with it is another matter. But the fact they recognize that it exists is a large draw, especially for a lot of young women who are just trying to figure out what the fuck that means, and the right are literally the only ones talking about it. We need to be addressing this stuff. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I have been Rad Mom out here in the garden on this lovely summer evening, and we've been looking at Pearl Davis and just the very surface level stuff. You know, really, yeah, everyone should have the vote, except for children. I'll see y'all in a little bit here at noon for the live stream discussion. Those are always fun. And next week at 11, I will have another video out for you guys. And, till then, stay real. Bye.